What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning in. So, I want to talk about the Big 10. Clearly, somebody associated with the Big 10 has been listening in over the past few years. I'm obviously joking, but now all of a sudden, we had the 12-team playoff. There was already talk about the Big 10 and the SEC being fans of going to 16 teams. But now the Big 10's like, hey, if we go to 16 teams, why don't we just go to 24? Go to 24. It'll be more money. We know that's the driving force behind everything. But there are some things about the Big Ten's plan that, I don't know, some people may have an issue with. So first off, appreciate you. Hit the like button. Follow, subscribe, share, and let me know your thoughts on college football playoff expansion. They're at 12, so there's no reason talking about going back to 2 or 4 or whatever. Are you fine with 12? Would you rather see 16? Or are you like me, where I've been a big proponent of 16 instead of the 12 at first, but I also thought 24 would be a really good place to go to as well. Where do you fall in terms of how expansive you want the college football playoff to be? So let me know in the comments. So there's an article out there talking about the Big Ten's plan. And basically what the Big Ten's looking to do is, well, one, Big Ten wants to leverage kind of siding with the SEC, which we know SEC and the Big Ten run college football right now. Side with them and say, yes, let's go to 16, which they're saying for like 2027 and 28. The Big Ten is hoping to go to 24 as a compromise for agreeing to go to 16 by 2029. So in 2029, we could see a 24-team playoff, which, like I said, I am perfectly okay with that. I am one of those where you look at the college football as a whole, there's so many schools out there. Allowing 24 teams to play for a college football playoff is not watering down anything. It's still a small percentage of the schools that are out there. And let's be honest, 2014 playoff, you're getting basically all big name schools anyway. And isn't that what we kind of want at the end of the season, seeing the best schools, the best brands go at it, fan bases traveling in some instances, and just creating matchups that we don't normally see. I feel like that's where this could be a big win for college football. Now, I get it. Some of you might think 24 is too much. And like teams like 20 to 24 might be like your, teams that maybe don't warrant going for it. My pushback would be, I keep saying this, college football has to embrace a little bit of what makes college basketball so entertaining come March. Because when everybody sits there, March, filling out a bracket, they love finding those upsets amongst, just going chalk. So imagine college football becomes that. I think that makes it more entertaining. But that's just me. So, the 2014 format, now the Big Ten is saying do away with conference title games because the Big Ten doesn't want conference title winners like getting preferential higher seeds. Now, I don't know. I may turn some of you off. That's not a deal breaker for me. So they're saying that, the first round games would be on campus. Second round games would be on campus as well, where the teams that have the byes are sitting and waiting. Because under the current format, campus games are only the first round. Then, once the teams on a bye get in, they're playing at bowl sites and not on campus. So the Big Ten wants to remedy that with giving the teams on a bye their first game on their campus. I think that creates obviously more of an advantage, more of an incentive to be a higher ranked team. So those who may think losing the conference title game waters down the regular season, the incentive to get a higher seed, get a bye, and then play your first game on campus kind of fills that gap. Now, when would it be played? So the Big Ten is looking at second weekend in December, getting started with the 2014 playoff. Um, Friday, Saturday, away from NFL competition. You run them on those days, and it kind of shortens the rest period from the 12-team playoff model, where they get several weeks before they really get going. Said the teams with the byes, extended layoffs, went 1-7 through the first 2 years of the 12-team playoff, which, like I said, those teams on a bye playing on a basic neutral site was no advantage for them. And it kind of made it seem like the rust or whatever was kind of outweighing the fact of getting the bye, and then the team who just played the weekend before coming in and kind of steamrolling. Quarterfinals would be New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at a bowl site. Semifinals would be the following week, bowl sites, championship game, mid-January, neutral site. Once again, I don't think that's a deal breaker. I know some college football, like analysts and stuff, were talking about, is there a way to get it where the championship game is New Year's Day? Because we know New Year's Day is a big day on the college football calendar. Because that's usually when the biggest bowl games are played. So it's still mid-January, but once again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So here are some of the provisions of the 2014 model. The preference is that first round matchups, we don't get any rematches from the previous season. I like that. Let the first round be new, fun matchups, and then kind of see where it goes. So if you you can still have that conference tie-in where maybe you get SEC versus SEC in the first round, which will create a lot of buzz. But the Big Ten's just saying, yeah, if we do that, let's make sure it's a game that didn't play maybe just a couple of weeks ago. Because then it's like, we've kind of seen this. Let's see something new. I think that's fine. So now the elimination of the conference title is one where there could be some pushback from fans, because we know the conference title is a big deal. If you're the Big Ten champions, that's a big deal. You're the SEC champion, that's a big deal. I think doing away with the conference title is, like I said, not giving byes to just teams that win a conference, because let's say it's a down year for a conference. Why should that team be rewarded as one of the top 8 teams or whatever? I believe it would be your top 8 seeds would get the bye. I get it. You don't want a situation like this past year, a team in Duke that I think had like 5 losses in the ACC title game. They win it. Then are you supposed to give them a bye even though they're not one of the 8 best teams in the country? So eliminate all of that. That's under the 2014 format. Duke probably wouldn't have even been in. Or if they were, they'd be a very low seed. Now, the Big Ten did say conference title games are artificial and that playing them is way more risk for those teams that play in those games, win it, and then move on to the playoff. I guess like risk of injury with the extra game, something like that. I guess one of the pushbacks would be the money that's lost from conference title games. Power Four championship games have media value of $200 million. That's just TV. There's also value with the tickets, sponsorships, game day sales, all of that. Which, let's be honest, if you added extra playoff games with more teams in, you're going to make a bunch of money from that. And the article did say, 2014 model, there's 23 total games, which is basically doubling from the 12-team format where you get 11 games. ESPN would own 2 of the 12 new games, and then 10 would go out for open bid. And I guarantee you networks would be climbing over each other to win bids on those 10 other games. So the money you lose from conference title games, you'll make up in those games very easily. And Let's see, document talking about rationale behind the move. Stresses the sustained interest of a longer playoff, prioritizing home games on campus, elimination of risk of injury in conference championship games, and then talking about Fernando Mendoza in the Big Ten title game had an injury scare. And think about if by playing in the Big Ten title, Mendoza wasn't available for the college football playoff. The college football playoff would look a lot different. Indiana, who ultimately won it all and definitely made the claim as being the best team in college football, could have potentially gone through the playoff without one of their best players. So I think the Big Ten is onto something. And I think it says, what else? Stresses the uptick in relevant regular season games, saying today's transfer portal player movement era, teams may lose a game or two early and gel together later in the season. More playoff opportunities late provides an appropriate safety net. I think that is a strong statement from the Big Ten. And some may read that as, yeah, isn't that kind of messing with the regular season product? I think the Big Ten is just like, look, if a team loses week 1 or 2, and then, certain circumstances happen later in the year, but they're one of the better teams, but they gotta kind of get held out, expanding the playoff field allows them a chance to still get in. Maybe they're a lower seed and they become one of those lower seeds that goes on a run during the playoff. Once again, the March Madness of college football playoff. So that's what all the article touches on. So once again, the big points, 16-team playoff is coming. That's what it seems like. The SEC and the Big 10 are on board with it. We know those two conferences carry a lot of weight because they are the two best conferences in college football. They're the ones that are constantly expanding, and it's almost like schools are fighting to get into those two. Obviously, the expanded playoff should slow that down a little bit. That's another part of this. We're probably on the verge of like the ACC completely blowing up. If there is a path to the 2014 playoff, I feel like that saves the ACC. Something that couldn't have helped the Pac-12, even though the Pac-12 is like regrouping, but it's not the old school Pac-12 that we all knew and loved, right? So I think that's another part of this that I guess wasn't outlined in the article, but it should help with the whole, super conferences just taking over, where you just have two big conferences, Big 10, SEC, and then everybody else is kind of fending for themselves. I think they do this, the ACC should be saved, because at least the teams threatening to leave, like Clemson and Florida State and teams like that, would be like, well, if we stay in the ACC, win a bunch of games, we'll just make the playoff anyway. So why do we need to leave to join a deeper, better conference where we could be left out? So that's something that's not in the article that my mind goes to all the time with the expanded playoff. Once again, should have been done before, so we could have preserved Pac-12, the Big East, all those conferences that I just, miss. So, but yeah, once again, the article, Big Ten wants 24 teams after the 16-team playoff. No conference title games, but they're saying that reduces injury risk for the extra game. And first, the top 8 seeds getting buys into the second round, with their first game being played on campus. Everybody else, top seeds, play on campus during the first round. And yeah, I think those are the highlighted points. And it's still run, second weekend in December to mid-January. So that's it. Once again, let me know your thoughts. Are you a fan of the 2014 playoff? Are you fine with 16 being the end point? Or are you fine with the current format of 12? Which we know that 12 is going to have a little bit of a tweak for Notre Dame, who, made a lot of noise because they missed the playoff this past season. Now the new provision is, as long as Notre Dame's in the top 12, Notre Dame's automatically going to get in. Which, I mean, unfortunately, I guess even with the 2014 playoff, there's less incentive for Notre Dame to join a conference, which that'd probably be the one bad thing, but I just don't think there's anything you can do to force Notre Dame in outside of the NCAA actually being a strong governing body that we all look to and say, hey, this is the guy in charge, and they tell Notre Dame, get into a conference or you're ineligible, which would never happen because Notre Dame's a brand, but that's the only way Notre Dame's really going to be forced into a conference. And 2014 playoff, they'll still operate as an independent with, I don't know, kind of handshake agreements with other conferences for certain games. Like it's annoying, but that's where we are. So, thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Like I said, whoever's at the Big 10 listening in, reveal yourself. I've been talking about 16 and 24 for a couple of years now. But at least we're getting there. So I'm happy. So like I said, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on what the Big Ten's trying to do and if you're a fan of it. So like I said, I think tomorrow probably talk about second half of the NBA, reflect on the All-Star weekend, and talk about some things I'm looking for in the second half of this season as we now the season will start up again on Thursday, start the road to the NBA playoffs. That should be a lot of fun. So thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate you. Leave a review. Hit the like button. Follow, subscribe. Any feedback is welcome feedback. And I'll talk to you next time. Be safe. God bless. See you later. All right. Bye.